What's up, guys? It's Beto with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to be doing a special video about the female GOP senators in 2020. A lot of them are under threat from being kicked out of office. Their Democratic challengers are pretty strong, and I think it's just interesting to look at because there's about six running for re-election in 2020, and I think this kind of reflective of the race overall. But I just kind of want to put a spotlight on this because I think it's important, and I'll kind of show you in the later why I think that these six races are very reflective of the races nationwide and why they matter going forward in the future, not just in 2020. And before I get started, I just wanted to remind y'all I'm doing my race to 500 subscribers. I'm going to do a new giveaway if I get 500 subscribers by June 10th. I'm going to give $25 to five of my lucky subscribers. And here's my Venmo. So just if you do win, just know that this is coming from 2020 election predictions, Ben W. Freeman. And I would just say this isn't my channel. This is all of our channels together. Y'all have been with me for a while. So let's grow our channel. Let's get to that 500 number for sure. All right. So let's look at the current 2020 Senate makeup by gender and party. I'll kind of explain later if this really matters a lot, but this does get a lot of media attention. So I just want to focus on it anyway. Right now, there are currently nine GOP female senators out of the 53 GOP senators, which gives a percentage of 17% female. And on the Democratic side, there are 17 Democratic female senators out of 47 total Democratic senators. There's actually 45, but the two independents who are both male tend to caucus with the Democrats. So I'm just going to put that at 47, which gives a percentage of 36. And obviously, if we were to add these together, there are a total of 26 female senators out of 100. So that's 26% of the Senate is female. And in 2018, there was a lot of gains in terms of female representation in Congress on both sides of the aisle. For example, Marsha Blackburn from my home state of Tennessee was the first U.S. Female senator from the state of Tennessee. And there was a lot of trends like this, like obviously on both sides of the political aisle. And this was kind of lauded on both sides as being a good thing as females are getting more representation. And here are just some examples of some prominent female senators that you've probably heard of. Kamala Harris, obviously, she ran for president from California. Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. Both both Kamala and Elizabeth are um, vice presidential picks, potential vice presidential picks for Joe Biden, Marsha Blackburn, and then Susan Collins in Maine. And she kind of made a name for herself in the Kavanaugh hearings, and she's been in the Senate since like 1997. So her and Dianne Feinstein have been there for forever. Okay, so here are the Republican female senators up for re-election in 2020. Six out of the nine are on the ballot for 2020, which is a lot. And some of these are for special elections. In fact, half of them are. And the other three are just up for a general re-election. But I think it's very, very interesting looking at these because the number of female GOP senators could cut in half. So let's just go in the list. So just kind of in levels of seniority. So Susan Collins, she's been a U.S. senator since 1997. She's the most senior female U.S. senator. She's from the state of Maine. And just kind of some history in her past election, she has carried every single county in her reelection bid. So 2014 and 2008 and 2002 and in 1996, she's carried every single county, and she's averaged about 60% of the vote, which is a very substantial margin. She's won by an average of like 20, 21 points every go around. She's been very popular in the state of Maine. Even though Maine typically votes for Democrat at the presidential level, Susan Collins has made a name for herself. She's been a very moderate Republican, and the voters of Maine have rewarded her for this. However, in 2020, it's going to be a lot closer, especially with the Kavanaugh hearings. Um, in 2018, Susan Collins was considered with Lisa Murkowski, who is another female GOP senator, but Susan Collins decided to vote yes in favor of Brett Kavanaugh, and a lot of Democrats were mad, and even maybe some moderate Democrats who have voted for Susan Collins for Maine in the past were angry. And so the Democratic challenger, Susan Collins, has gotten a lot of press and a lot of money thrown her way. And some polls have Susan Collins as challenger ahead for the first time ever in her political life. I think Susan Collins probably made the right choice voting for Brett Kavanaugh just in political terms, because I think that if she had voted against Brett Kavanaugh, that she would have gotten primaried, and that it would have been a lot harder for her to fight off a primary challenge than to win the general election. I really see her general election bid as a toss-up. So next up, going to Shelley, Capito. She was elected in 2014. And the reason why she kind of has the triple name and all the other ones have a double name is because her father was a big politician in West Virginia. So she had the name recognition with more. Not to say that that's the only reason why she became the U.S. Senator in West Virginia, but she is the first female U.S. Senator from West Virginia, so that's really great for her. But in West Virginia, even though they have a Democratic senator in Joe Manchin, I do not see West Virginia going. Her seat is pretty safe. So next up is Joni Ernst. She's been a U.S. Senator since 2014. She got a lot of press coverage in 2014, especially on the late night shows, because she had an ad where she talked about castrating a pig. She kind of was trying to portray this image of her where she was kind of grew up on the farms in Iowa, which there's a lot of farmers in Iowa, tried to kind of relate to this conservative type things. And she like related castrating pigs to getting the pork out of Congress, or like kind of the corruption of Congress. And she's also a member of the National Guard. She was very popular. She won by 10 points in Iowa in 2014, even though Obama won Iowa twice. So Joni Ernst did very, very well in 2014. Since then, she's not as popular now, but I'll kind of talk about later if I think she'll have difficulty winning re-election. Sydney Highsmith, it's interesting. She was appointed U.S. Senator in 2018 by the governor of Mississippi. And she has a lot of controversy surrounding her. So she was appointed in early 2018, and during the 2018 midterms, she did not win over 50% of the vote because it was kind of a jungle primary. There was a lot of people. So the two top, and she was appointed by the governor and endorsed by a lot of people. With the two top contenders, it was Mark Espy and her. Mark Espy was the Democrat, she was the Republican. And in a special election, right, I think it was like 3 weeks after the 2018 midterms in late November, she won 52 to 53% of the vote, while her opponent got like 47%. So it was a very, very close race, but she ended up winning re-election. And one reason it was so close, even though it's in deep red Mississippi, is because she had a lot of controversy. There's pictures of her in a Confederate uniform. There's a quote where she said something to the point of like, "Oh, if there was a public hanging here, I would be front row." And even like went to a segregationist school when she was in like high school, which isn't really her fault, but in the media, she was really portrayed as a racist and someone who supports the Confederacy. And I think a lot of moderate Republicans in Mississippi were a little bit turned off by this. But at the end of the day, she was elected senator in 2018, and I think a lot of people in Mississippi thought that kind of this race narrative that Sydney Hyde-Smith was a racist was kind of overblown in the media. But she is on the ballot in 2020 because the person she replaced was elected in 2014. So next up is Martha McSally. She was also appointed by the governor. You'll find this is a very common thing with Republican female senators. She lost the race to Kristen in 2018, but after John McCain, rest in peace, died, the governor, Doug Ducey, um, appointed her to be the U.S. senator. And I've done it in a past video where I said I disagree with this choice tremendously, because in 2018 Martha McSally was on the ballot. Voters had a chance to vote for her, and they didn't vote. They didn't elect her. They elected Kristen Sinema. So I kind of think this was a very poor choice by Governor Ducey, and it was kind of a middle finger to the voters of Arizona. And already she's very much down in the polls to Mark Kelly, who's the Democratic challenger. We'll see if this pays off. There's kind of conspiracy theories that Doug Ducey chose Martha McSally because he wants her to lose, so he can then challenge probably Mark Kelly in 2022 when he steps down as governor. Who knows? But that is a pretty crazy conspiracy theory, and I could really see it coming true. So lastly is Kelly Loeffler from the state of Georgia. I'm going to do another video on kind of the extent to this in Georgia, because it's a very complicated thing. Brian Kemp appointed Kelly Loeffler in 2019 against the Trump White House. They wanted Doug Collins to be appointed governor, and this was after the current Republican Georgia senator had some health issues and he had to step down. But Brian Kemp wanted to appeal kind of to the suburban women who have been leaving the Republican Party in past years, like in 2018. We saw in the midterm elections a lot of suburban women who typically vote Republican vote Democrat. So Brian Kemp, in an effort to win them back, appointed Kelly Loeffler. It also kind of looks like a big epic fail, kind of like Doug Ducey, which did with Martha McSally, but we will see. Okay, and moving on. And before I get into this video, I'm going to split this up into a part 1 and part 2. So I will go over why I think all these senators go into each category, and I'll be doing that tomorrow. And if you haven't already, please subscribe right here, and I'll see you tomorrow.